and welcome back to my channel. I am Jordan, and today I'm here with my wrap up. Y'all, I read a whole bunch of books, so I don't even want to waste y'all time. Let's get into this wrap up of the books I read for October. And yeah, make sure to subscribe. Click that subscribe link. That way you get to know whenever I post another video. And then also engage with me below. Comment below if you've read any of these books or if you have any recommendations for me. So let's get into the books that I read. Okay, so I'm going to start with these two books because these were actually recommended by people in the comment section. So I want to give you guys an update. I did read them. So Get a Life, Chloe Brown. So this is the first book in the Brown Sisters series. And, you know, I was like, okay, maybe I'll check it out. Maybe I won't. But then my comment section was like, you got to read it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to read it. Thank y'all. I enjoy this book so much. So okay, the book, of course, is romance. Well, if you don't know, it's romance, but you probably see it on the screen. And it follows Chloe, who is like a computer kind of, I'm not nerd, but yeah, computer kind of nerd. She's kind of awkward. She also has chronic pain, like deals with chronic illness, which I thought was so dope to have in a romance novel, the way it was just written, because I feel like with chronic pain and chronic illness, a lot of times people don't realize like a lot of the stuff is debilitating. And it's like, I just love the angle that the author took with that and how compassionate and perfect she made Red for Chloe. And okay, let's talk about that. The love interest is Red, who Red is an artist who has also hit a hard point in his life. They both actually kind of had some semi abusive relationships where it comes from like emotional and verbal abusive situations, but they have like a quirky little banter between the two. It is British banter, and I listened to it on audio, and I just loved the banter back and forth, like the quirkiness between the two, because I was literally laughing. Like, it brought me a lot of joy. So that brings me to the next book in the series, and that is Take a Hint, Dani Brown. This is the second book in the Brown Sisters series, and this one follows Dani Brown, and she is like a professor. She's semi-type A. I think she's type A. I don't really know, but she's like very focused, and she's also like can get swarmed by her work and all this other stuff, but she kind of doesn't really believe in love. Like, whereas Chloe was definitely like more so just heartbroken and like hesitant and scared, Dani's is kind of like, bro, I'm only doing quickies and hookups. Like, I'm not trying to do nothing serious. We find out why later on, but that's besides the point. Zaf is her coworker, who is a security guard at the university, and he's a former rugby player, and he loves romance novels, which I loved. And I love her, you know, when you read romance, he describes exactly why people like reading romance, like the happy endings and all that other stuff. And it was just so cutesy. They kind of have like a friendship vibe, coworker vibe, that's kind of like a mutual crush interest, but they're very complementary to each other. And it was definitely like a developed friendship turned into a romance. Like, you know what? This is what I would want in a relationship. This is a safe space. So yeah, I like both of the books. I saw people like the second book way more than the first. I think I liked them pretty evenly, but maybe the first one a little bit more. So that was surprising to me. But all in all, 4 stars. If we're talking about the series as a whole, I would say 3.5 for me on Dani. Actually, on maybe Dani. I don't know. I'm just lying. I gave them 4 stars. They're 4 stars. I be trying to be harder at my ratings sometimes because I'm like, I ain't trying to give it out to everybody, but these romance, they were really good. They were good. Okay, so next up, a thriller. This was Little Secrets, and y'all, I didn't know what to expect by this. I don't know what made me pick it up. I really wish I could remember why I picked it up, but I might do a standalone for this. I really liked this freaking book. I really liked it. It was suspenseful, to say the least, and it had so many twists and turns. Like, I think I guessed maybe a few of them, but it really kept me on its toes, because once you thought you had it figured out, it would take another direction, and I freaking loved that aspect. The book is centered around Marin, who's like a mom. She's a wife. She has basically like this perfect life. She owns all these salons. She's upper middle class, or upper class, actually. I won't even say middle class. She's upper class. Her husband, Derek, owns his own business, and they're living the American dream. They have this cute little son, Sebastian. And anyways, the book starts off, she's at a grocery store. her world gets turned upside down when he is abducted right under her nose. So that's kind of like the opening scene that sets the story. And throughout the novel, we're kind of fast forwarded like a year after the whole event. She's still grieving. Her husband kind of has almost, I don't want to say moved on, but he doesn't want to hear about Sebastian no more. He's not trying to engage in the grief that she's still living and breathing every single day. And, she's going through support groups and all sorts of stuff. And she's hired a private investigator without her husband knowing. And that's when all the little secrets, hence the title, start coming out. And there are so many secrets, and those secrets literally drive all the different plot turns. So you're really trying to figure out what's going on with the husband. You're trying to figure out what's going on with the wife. You're trying to figure out what's going on with everybody, basically. And also, like, is Sebastian alive or is he dead? And I don't want to give away too much. Let me know if y'all want a standalone. I might just record a standalone anyways, because I really like this book. I gave this one 4 stars as well. All right. Next up, let's talk about Mexican Gothic. So Mexican Gothic, this will be really short because I have a standalone on this. But Mexican Gothic is a horror story, and it's set in the 1950s in Mexico. And Noemi, which is such a beautiful name, by the way, is a 20-something-year-old socialite, fashionista girl, and she's living her life. And her cousin writes saying that she's in danger, her cousin Catalina, and like the house is basically haunted. And this comes as a surprise because they haven't heard from Catalina in a minute, ever since she married this like strange Englishman. And the author actually based the book off of a visit that she had in a town in Mexico where in the 1800s it was overtaken. The mining town was overtaken by the British. And after visiting the cemetery, she knew she wanted to write a horror story about it. So if that doesn't intrigue you, maybe the cover will. That cover is freaking gorgeous. That, honestly, I ain't know nothing about the story. Saw the cover, I was like, I'm gonna read it. I hope you guys do too. I loved it. Check out for more details in my standalone. Okay, so next up, I'll talk about this book. It's so funny because on my book, when I do my wrap-ups, it's rare that I don't really like a book if I'm reviewing it, because usually if I don't like a book, I don't finish the book. Like, I just not that type of person. Like, if I'm not enjoying the read, I'm not going to force myself to finish it. This book, it's not that I didn't like it, I just didn't like it. So this is You Had Me At Hola, which, let me explain, this is a romance, which I don't know if it's because I've been reading so much romance, so now, like, when you're reading all these good romance novels, your bar is set really high. But this is featuring Jasmine, who's the main character. She's an actress, and she's trying to become a leading lady. That's her goal. And she, is just got a role in this new show, and it's the perfect timing because she's going through like a horrible breakup, a public breakup, where she's being dragged through the press. And her co-star is someone who's huge in the telenovela world and her family grew up loving, and that is Ashton. And, he's a telenovela star, but he wants to break into real Hollywood. So they're both kind of like at a pivotal point in their careers where they really want this to be like a breakout role for them. But they start liking each other and romance happens and it complicates things, I guess, is what we're supposed to get from this. I liked the fact that it was, there were several different Latin American countries represented or mentioned. I can't say represented, mentioned. And random like Cafe Bustelo, like little things like that, like you hear and you're like, oh, that's, like it's familiar. It feels nice. You like hearing about it. But it's hard to explain. It's like the parts I like the most about the book were actually the scenes, because in the show that these two actors are playing, it's like a show within a show, because the show that the characters that they're playing are also actors that are playing in a telenovela, and some of the elements in the book, you get the scenes from the actual show that they're shooting, which I think is Carmencita. I forget what the show is actually called. Anyways, I just thought I was going to love it because I just thought, they said like the way they described it and the whole telenovela, it sounded so fun and nice. And I thought it was going to have like this really cute romance aspect. But the romance aspect, it was kind of like, I don't really want them to necessarily be together. And I don't really feel like they really were together. And I kind of just felt like this ain't going to last. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if it's because the writing, it took too long for them to even get to the romance, but something was just I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads, but it was really like a 2.5 for me. But I like the concept a lot. I like the concept a lot, but I just don't recommend the book. Like I finished it because I could, but if I didn't finish it, I wouldn't have regretted not finishing it. So take that what y'all want, and yeah. Okay, anyways, on a more positive note, let's get to some romances, back to some romances that I did like. So I finally read a book by Rebecca Weatherspoon, which I am so glad I was introduced to the author. I read Wraith First, which is the first book in the Loose End series, and this follows like a male nanny and Sloane, who's like a doctor, a black doctor who has these 2 adorable twin daughters, and she needs a male nanny. And Rafe happens to be a male nanny, and he needs a new position as well. At perfect timing, the stars align, and romance happens between the nanny and Sloane. I gave this like 3.5 stars. I actually really liked it a lot. It's just there was a conflict element with Sloane's like ex-husband that wasn't really fully fleshed out or really explained, and it was like a whole bunch happened there, but nothing really happened there. But as far as the cutesy feel, and as far as me actually laughing out loud, and the chemistry between those two, the chemistry was strong, and it had pretty much all the elements that I want in a romance. So I really liked it. I liked it enough where I was like, I definitely want to read the second book. The second book, Zenny, now this one took me for a spin. I didn't know what to expect. And I actually read this with Weekend Reader, Zenny. And it's funny because I liked Zenny more and she liked Rafe more, but that's neither here nor there. Zenny is a story about Zenny, she's a teacher, and she gets this inheritance through some family secret I won't go in depth with because it's explained in the story. But really the focal point is she has this inheritance that's like millions of dollars, but she can only get it is if she marries this dude. So she's like, okay, but she's never met this guy. She meets him, Mason, and he is like a Scottish guy who lives up north, and he has his own thing. But the cool thing is both of the characters, they're both bi. The guy, Mason, he is plus size, and I felt like the representation, it was real cool having the various kind of like representation in romance, but their chemistry, I felt like they were just like instantly, I know people don't necessarily like the instant romance type stuff, but they were like, it wasn't necessarily instant romance, but they were like instantly compatible, instantly like you knew they were going to be cool with each other and friends, and they just vibed. And the fact that the two were just so comfortable and just like so with each other, like there was no judgment between the two. And that's where I'll leave that. Okay, so that's all that I have for my wrap up. You guys probably saw I also reviewed Lovecraft, which you could check out that review. That's comparing the book to the show. So check that out as well. But yeah, let me know what you guys are reading next month or for the rest of this year, because it's pretty much almost over. And if you read anything that I read, let me know what your thoughts were. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Love and light and deuces.